Hi, and welcome to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation focused on youth mental health. Before we begin today's episode, I just wanted to let you all know that all content that is found in our podcast is created for informational purposes only. This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition, and never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard in this podcast. Thank you so much, and without further ado, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving. It's your host, Punam, here with an incredible special guest, Lena Peller. She is a mother of two wonderful boys, and we are today recording Mother's Day special podcast. We all know how much mothers do for their family, and sometimes they forget about themselves while taking care of everything else. Today, we are going to talk about self care and how each of us should take care of ourselves. Welcome, Lena. I am looking forward to talking to you. Before I ask you a few questions, please introduce yourself and tell us more about you and what are you doing currently.
Hi, Punam. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here for this topic and to tell you a few words about myself. I am a coach and HR professional. I do coach individuals and teams, and I'm currently employed with a big company and on my way to actually be self-employed and do the coaching and everything for a living. So I'm very excited because this topic is so important, I think, for all of us in all works, ways of life that we are in all of our roles. So happy to be here and talk to you.
Nina, tell us, where are you joining us from? I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I'm actually in cold and freezing Germany. I'm near Munich in the south of Germany, and looking out the window, we have snowflakes falling right now because we have a return of winter at the moment.
So that's, so cool. And I am joining you from sunny California. It's a spring
Mm.
season right now. So it's exciting to talk about Mother's Day. And I will tell you, I am born and raised in India. And I do not remember celebrating Mother's Day the way we do now. So, did you celebrate Mother's Day when you were growing up? And if you did, how did you celebrate?
Yeah, I actually celebrated Mother's Day. So in Germany, there's a tradition that on Mother's Day, usually you get together with your family and you have coffee and you have cake. And it's quite different, by the way, from Father's Day, where people head out and do a bicycle tour and go out and have maybe a couple of beers. But what I used to do for my mom is nothing big, but I took care that I prepared breakfast for her, brought her some coffee to her bed, and made sure that she had a bit of a luxury and a bit of a lie-in perhaps that morning. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. So now, Elena, I know you are a mother of two wonderful boys. So how do your boys celebrate Mother's Day with you? Do you see any difference in celebration from back then and now?
Yeah, I have to laugh because as you said, I have two boys and it's a little bit different. Let's just say ever since they left kindergarten and didn't have a teacher crafting a little gift with them, there's not as much happening on Mother's Day with them. So I'm not getting coffee, but this is where Dad comes in and he actually does a good job in giving me some flowers and making the boys remember how lucky they are to have a mom that cares for them. Yeah.
Yeah, so I am also blessed to have two kids, one daughter and one son. So like you are saying, growing up, they were making a lot of craft, not like only in kindergarten, but their elementary schools, they did art projects. But my girl is shows more warmth. She makes something special for me. And boy, like, Mom, do I really need to do something special? You know, I love you anyway. So that's his
Yeah.
way of escaping doing more work. But I appreciate, like, as you're saying, dad is there to guide them, coach them, and tell them mother is so important. So I'm so
Mm.
glad for you. I wanted to ask you, what do you admire about your mom?
Many things. I think I mostly admire the way she took care of me, how she provided for me when I was little. I mean, it's often the case, right, that we only appreciate it after we leave the house and we have children of our own. See how much care and love went into that. So she was always an advocate for me, spreading my wings when my dad was a bit more of a helicopter dad and careful, and provided with me with love and food, but also being very creative. And she loved to knit and to sew, and I always had fun clothes when I was little that were a little bit different. So that's something I admire, the love she put into everything she did for me. And admittedly, when I was a teen, we didn't have a very easy relationship also, always. There was a lot of friction at times, and looking back, I do realize that's probably because she had her own journey to travel, her own development to make, and I admire that she took those steps and she worked on that and was a role model for me in that way. And, also how she bridged the gap between taking care of herself and making sure that she develops herself into where she wants to be, but at the same time making sure that she took care of us. And, yeah, and it wasn't always easy. I could see that. But I took a lot away from that and tried to take that path even further for myself and for the betterment of my experience and that of my family. So she was a big influence there, for sure.
That's fantastic, Lena. I must say, I am like your mother. So I do pour that love, and daddy's on more on the discipline side. Even I do admire about my mother. She used to be a teacher. Now she's retired, but she really worked hard raising us. So like you said, your mother is role model for you. My mother is also a role model for me. I always learned from her, like, do hard work, but stay humble, stay grounded. So she always kept me grounded, always reminded me, if you're achieving something, that's wonderful, but don't forget your roots. So I admire all the hard work she put together to raise us, and I am who I am because of her hard work. My dad was on the other side; he would pour more love. Mom would discipline us. But it's so important to acknowledge our mother's special qualities and learn from our mothers, and add on more if we need to, as you did. So
Mm,
thank you so much. Uh,
sure.
Before I ask you, yeah, about today's topic, I would like to start with a basic question. What is self-care to you, and why is it important?
Well, self-care for me is really taking good care of myself in body and in spirit. I think there's the basics like good food, proper sleep, movement, keeping my body healthy, but also as I grow older, learning to listen more to my quieter needs. So to be attentive, and there could be a need for solitude, for silence at times, or for companionship on the other hand, and for growth. And so I feel it's so important because I'm someone who wants to be of service and useful to others, and I can only do that when my cup is full. And it's been a learning process, but making sure that I fill my cup so I can pour for others, so to speak, is something that I've realized and that I try to practice. Yeah.
That's so beautiful, Lena. We do take care of our body, but sometimes we forget about taking care of our mind and spirit. So you are reminding us, the holistic health, holistic well-being is more important. And I can tell you from my experience, I did not take care of myself when my kids were young, being a
Mm.
full-time mother, not like, and then, having job, no support system. It was very overwhelming experience. So I learned hard way. So, but
Yeah.
as you are saying, it's so important. So what is your advice to mothers who cannot take time out to themselves? How do you do it?
Yeah. Good question. And I do relate to what you're sharing because it is, it is a journey, right? I mean, we don't always get it right, and sometimes we have to get it wrong quite a lot so that we are reminded to try better and take better care of ourselves. I think my advice would be to take time out for yourself. And this is so easily said and hard to do it when you're, especially with small children, and you're always on, always needed. Someone's always at your proverbial skirt and clinging to it. But, you know, I think while our instincts scream at us to put ourselves last or start caring for ourselves only when everyone and everything is taken care of, I think you have to learn, we all have to learn, I include myself in that, to give ourselves a minimum of grace and to allow ourselves to put ourselves first at least once per day. And I'm quite a big fan of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And there's a quote a quote that he said, and it hits the nail on the head, I think, asking, have you ever been too busy driving to stop for gas? And so taking care of yourself is not a luxury. It's not a luxury stop. It's a necessary stop and a necessary action to keep driving, so to speak in that picture. And my advice also comes from Stephen Covey. Something I practice. He has the 7 habits, and the seventh habit really is sharpening the saw. And his advice is to make sure that we take little actions every day for our relationships, our body, our spirit, and our mind. So, and that helps me in 2 ways. First, I am more intentionally planning some time for myself and some opportunity to practice self-care. And second, I experience that those things I experience more consciously. For example, I might have a nice chat with my son while driving him somewhere, and more consciously enjoying that chat gives me energy back rather than thinking, oh, no, I'm taxi driving, I don't have any time for myself. So I think it has a double impact. So experiencing the beautiful moments in my life more consciously. For example, like a cup of tea I might drink while looking out the window while the kids play outside or something like that, right? To make more intentional use of that time. And something else I could advise, which helped me a lot, something very practical, it comes from a time management specialist called Laura Vanderkamp, if you want to look her up, is tracking your time for a week or 2 weeks, and in 30-minute increments, just looking at how do you spend your time? Because I noticed I had a lot of, I call them black holes in my schedule, where I didn't know where my time actually went. And it might have been scrolling or on social media, or it might have been procrastinating and doing things that weren't really essential. And so that helped me reevaluate, how do I really want to spend my time? And could I change just a little thing and maybe have more time for myself? As a result, I always had told myself the story, I don't have time to read. And I noticed I have little moments of time where I actually could sit down and read. So now when I have 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I just sit down and read, or I take my book. When I'm taxi driving my kids, I take my book and then I sit down and read while I wait for them or something like that. So Hope that helps. Just some ideas.
Absolutely. Yes, Lena. So important to do time management, right? So there are 24 hours for everybody, but some people they complain they don't have time, and some people they say, no, I do have time. So how, that puzzle is solved? You beautifully explained that to us, looking at your time, is your time going? Be more conscious, be more mindful. Instead of complaining, take corrective actions. As you were saying, even 15, 10 minutes, if you really want to read, that's your priority, you can do it. Right. And other thing, what I learned from you, if you really want to take care of yourself, schedule that time on your calendar, so that
Yeah,
it is a reminder, right, to yourself. And maybe you will not do one time, but if that reminder is coming again and again, then
yeah,
you will remember that. So that's so important.
absolutely. And I would add to that, if I may, this is an opportunity to be creative. Scarcity is often an opportunity to become creative. So to plan for many little moments that you could have. So, for example, when you're dropping your children off at childcare, you could sit in the car or the park opposite for just 5 minutes and breathe instead of racing onwards to the next thing or, the chores or work, and just take that time for yourself. Or what I used to do when the kids were little, put the mat down when they're playing and just have some stretches, put in some stretches. That's not alone time, but it's still taking care of myself, while with the children. And I think asking for what you need, often we feel we don't have permission to do so. But I found that children and husbands and partners are very responsive to that when you formulate a clear ask to them. So even, school-age children or smaller children, I would say things like, Mommy is getting a headache and needs to be quiet for a bit. Can you be my quiet man and help me protect my silence? So a little playful, making them feel they're supportive and involved, and they usually understood, and we're very collaborative in that. So, and with my teenager now, I would, if I go for a walk or a run, I would tell him, can you be the man around the house for a little bit and make sure that your little brother is okay if he needs anything? And that makes him feel good, I think, and I get the support to take care of myself for a little bit.
Wow, that's fantastic, because we are a family here and everybody has
Mhm.
to do their own share. Sometimes, I notice I am not making my ask very clear. But when I do, like if I need help in doing dishes, I was shy to ask, because, I'm coming from a culture where my mother was always the pillar of support, giving and doing everything. My father did not contribute much at home because he was having a big business to take care of. So I thought maybe I need to do the same in my house, like do everything myself, not ask for help. But I learned, boys or spouse, husband, they equally have their share to do. Because the support system, I don't have a big support system here. My family is my support
Mhm.
system. So I started asking. So if you ask me, my advice to those busy working moms, like please do ask for help. Build that support system within the family and outside also. Don't be shy to ask for help if you need, because if you
Yeah.
cannot be a superwoman doing everything
No,
all by yourself. Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
So that was my kind of advice to my younger self. Like, I wish I had asked for more help. So, what is your advice to your younger self, Lena?
I think just relax. It will work out somehow. Kids are growing into good people without the perfect parenting advice or the perfect strategy, or, just What counts, I think, is the relationship that we're building with our children, with our partners together as a family. And I think taking time for that and focusing on that gives us so much back and gives, so much to the family. The busy work, I used to worry so much about the busy work. So, dirty dishes will be dirty dishes in half an hour, even tomorrow, if you let them be. And the experience is available now. So choose the experience if you can, over the busy work.
I agree, Lena. Even I had to make peace with dirty house. It's okay, if house is not that clean. Am I happy? Am I enjoying with my
Mhm.
family? If we want to watch a movie, house is not clean, that's okay. So you're absolutely right. Choose your priorities and moments, collect those moments that matter. So I wanted to ask you another question. How can teens who are listening to this podcast help their mothers and encourage their mothers to make self-care
Mhm.
as a priority?
I love that question. It's so good because it fits so well with what I said about asking them to pitch in and makes them, hopefully, encourages them to support. I would probably say, because we're all learning this as mothers, as fathers, I guess it's the same as adults. We're learning to take better care of ourselves. So when you see your mothers overexerting themselves or not taking care of themselves, you could perhaps kindly remind them that they are your role models and how to take care of themselves, and that you will be okay if they take out a bit more time for themselves. So I do a lot of fussing over events and stuff, and I know it annoys my sons sometimes, but that's my love language for them. This is how I show that I care and I love them. So it does feel nice if my sons are patient with me when I am perhaps spinning out a little bit too much into that direction. And, just show them that you recognize their intention and, their love that is in that maybe over caring and overdoing sometimes. And, the joker and the power card in all of this is hug your mom. Hugs for moms are the simplest and biggest gift you can give them. It will make them feel so much better. So, yeah.
Oh, Nina, they're free, right? They don't need to spend
Hugs are
money for
free.
that.
Yes. Yes.
And sometimes I will tell you my secret. My son is little shy to hug, so I ask his permission. If he's not hugging me, that's fine. But I ask his permission, can I hug you? And he smiles and he says, okay, mom, sure. So, but yeah,
Mm.
if it comes from the other way, I understand it will be more lovely. But thank you so much for sharing that advice. And
Yeah.
I'm sure, like you have been sharing so many wonderful advices. Any other parenting tips you would like to give to our working parents?
Yeah, I would say, and this is a journey we do ourselves, right? Again, I had to work a lot of on accepting that as a working mother, it means I cannot do it all perfectly. Others might be able to, but I cannot. So I have my limits, my strength has its limits, and if the house is a disaster at times, or my cakes for birthdays and bake sales, etc., are very simple, that's okay. I'm doing enough. I'm enough. So I think that's a very important step and something to work on. At least it was for me. And also, I think learning to read my body and spirit better, and then acting accordingly and not just powering through, but really making sure that I'm disciplined with that. So it might also mean, if my husband and kids are visiting the in-laws on a Sunday and I'm just tired, saying, would you mind me staying at home? I really need to relax. I need a quiet day. It's a little bit of it's a decision where you lose some, and that's also something to accept because you're losing that family time, but sometimes the me time is more important, so I'm prioritizing myself. Yeah, And I really think my family understands better now why I want to be alone. So sharing with them why I need that hopefully enables them to do the same, so that we become a family system where we can ask for what we need, where it's accepted, where we learn to read and understand each other better, and then support each other better. To find that balance in life between giving service, being useful for others, for the community, and also taking that time for ourselves.
I love it, Lena. Thank you. Thank you so much. Anything that mothers should not do.
Yeah, and I'm still working on that. It's a work in progress, but I think the biggest poison to my mom happiness is when I'm comparing myself to others. And, now with social media, etc., it's even easier than to compare yourself to other parents in school, etc. But I think we never know what's going on in someone's journey, and being what it's like to be in someone's shoes. So I might see their super nice car, or they're going on that fantastic vacation together, or their house is always clean and it looks perfect, but I don't know what it really is like. So basing my decisions and my happiness on that comparison, I found that not helpful at all. So I'm trying to look at what's best for my family, what works best for us. And that might look totally different, but it's just the right thing for us. And it's okay. I think it's a balance to look left and right, what others are doing, just to get inspiration and ideas on what could help us and what could work well for us too. And at the same time, not putting pressure on ourselves as mothers to keep up with the Joneses or other families that are out there. Yeah.
Oh, that's some $1 million advice, Lena. And not like even comparing yourself or your family, when subconsciously sometimes we do compare our kids with other kids, their achievement, or even siblings for that matter. So I also
Mm-hmm.
learned, instead of comparison, I would rather give more compassion. So I love what you mentioned. So anything else would you like to share before we wrap up this podcast?
Being a coach, I just want to encourage you. I know it's difficult sometimes, this journey of being a mother, and, accompanying your kids through various stages in their lives, and they're growing into adults. So I would say, see this as a development opportunity. Maybe it's the biggest development opportunity for yourself that you'll ever have, with all the challenges and the ups and downs. And so I think as parents, we're learning so much about ourselves. It's good and bad, things we like about ourselves. Maybe we discover things we don't find so likable about ourselves. And it's a powerful, purpose-driven learning. And whenever we learn, we have setbacks, tough times, but we always, always get stronger through it. So I think motherhood being such a universal experience, there's so much where we can support each other through encouragement, role modeling, practical support, and if everything else fails, through laughter. So laughter has always saved the day for me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Lena, for joining us from Germany, sharing all the pearls and wisdoms and your childhood experiences. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm wishing all the mothers a happy Mother's Day. And please, please do take good care of yourself. If you are not happy, you cannot make your family happy. So your happiness matters, your self-care matters. So please take good care of yourself and keep going. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us.
Happy Mother's Day.
You are listening to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation. As part of our youth series, we will be releasing new episodes every Friday, so make sure to continue to check those out. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you so much for listening.